And we're recording. And I also blame diet companies for taking up bandwidth, 100%. All right, so and then if the notes, let me quickly, oh, Lindsay connected them. Okay, cool. We have, like, if you're watching on Facebook and you want to see me go through the PowerPoint as well, you can, we have like 17 spots until it caps out. There's 83 people in it right now. So feel free to join us. Otherwise, the slides should be pretty self-explanatory. And yeah, we're gonna go through it like step by step regardless. So first of all, to ground, good thing I had this planned already. So in order to ground us right now, I want to take a second to tune into your vision. Okay, so in the journaling prompts that I sent out, one of the things I asked, or one of the things that you worked on, was what do you want? Like, what do you actually want from weight loss? What do you actually want from your life? And try to get specific with it. It doesn't have to be broad, like freedom and stuff. Like, it can be really specific stuff. But I just want to start a little vision of different things that you want. And if you don't really know what you want, regardless of weight loss, you can always like tell me what you wanted from weight loss, and we'll get back to it later. Okay, so feel better and close. Okay, whoa, all right. Joints. Confidence. And creativity, I saw. Love myself, acceptance. Love myself. Okay. Yeah, Facebook, I'm watching your comments too. To move comfortably, sleep better. Like, oh, movement, sleep, energy. Ooh, like romantic. Romance. I'll just put romance. Whatever. Romantic confidence. How about that? Ooh, it's going to be a test of my depth perception or my spatial arrangement. All right. Attention. I want people to give me attention. Same. Okay. That one really made me laugh. I like that. Sexy and desirable. Improve, not, blood pressure status. How about that? I just did increase blood pressure, and then I was like, no, you want to increase, you got it. All right. Strength. And endurance. Walk upstairs. Yeah. Easily. Okay, so travel. Like without, I put travel without fat tax because that's kind of, that's the name for having to buy an extra seat. Quiet mind. Stability. Okay. Okay, the person who just said, I want to be the hottest girl in the room, why? What do you think the hottest girl in the room feels or experiences that's different from how you feel now? Okay. So prevent diabetes. Okay. No judgment. Look good naked. I'll put that one because we'll talk about it. Ooh, I want to feel like I have to, I don't want to feel like I have to make fun of myself before someone else does. Yeah. To not think about food. That was like the first food one. Okay. Not think about food. Probably consistency, right? With health. Yeah, we're going to talk about Adele's post. Okay, so I'll put slash fit clothes, fit in clothes. Oh, we're running out of space. Okay, I think that's got to be it. Yeah, to actually get help from doctors. Yeah, I want that too. For you all, not for me, for you all. But that's kind of the whole point of what we're doing here. All right. So hold this in your mind. All right. We're going to talk about this stuff. We're going to come back to it. Just hold it in your mind. How does it feel to take ownership of the things that you want for yourself? Like, how does it feel to really get specific about what you want? Let me know in the comments. Pretty damn good. Yeah. I got a meh. Yeah. Scary because I might not succeed. Good. Hopeful. Scary. It feels very distant. Okay. We can talk about that. Optimistic, but a little naive. Interesting. Vulnerable. Um, it's stressful to see the ones that I don't feel like I have control over, but good to see the ones that I do. That's it. Wishful thinking. Interesting. In some ways it feels vain as well. That's interesting. I blame a lot on my weight. Yeah. Okay. It feels scary after everyone affirming how much more they value small bodies with the whole Adele thing today. I mean, yeah. And again, we're going to talk about Adele in a bit, but that's not new. And I know that's not very comforting. It's just like a reminder when you see a post like that blow up. But what is new is the number of articles and people online who are saying like, we need to stop talking about weight loss like it's the number one thing. There's so many more people advocating against that kind of standard and like like validation, right, of weight loss than there ever have been, ever. So that's new, which is exciting. So I would encourage you to focus on that. There's a lot of fat activists on Twitter and etc. Who are putting out some great stuff. All right. The Adele thing is devastating, not inspiring. Again, the fact that people are complimenting her weight loss is not meant to be inspiring. Like that's allowed to be devastating and filled with grief for you. That's so allowed. And the culture's changing. There's so many more conversations about why we shouldn't be complimenting people on their weight loss than there ever have been before. The needle in the culture is starting to move. And I really want you all to like know that I've been very like tapped into the culture, and the way that conversations have changed even in the past 2 years radically. Okay, so you're allowed to feel grief. Yeah, yes, and you're allowed to feel grief, and the conversations are changing, I promise. All right, so let's go to our slides, shall we? Okay, so quick recap and then we'll get into it. We already did that part. So quick recap for anyone, because I imagine there's going to be people who like just tuned into this one who didn't come to the first one. So why are you here? Cycling between good and bad eating, feeling particularly out of control, struggling with guilt of not doing enough in a lot of areas. You rebel against healthy lifestyle changes and attempts to lose weight, rebel. And it makes you feel like a failure. You're dependent on what other people think of you, terrified, like deeply terrified of rejection and failure. Relationship with food is affecting all aspects of your life, and you struggle with chronic stress and anxiety, struggle with all or nothing thinking, perfectionism and control, and you get caught in comparison and hide from your life. So these are the things that you showed up to the webinar with on Monday, right? And so we're gonna keep talking. We're gonna keep talking about this. Yeah, resources of media that's more body positive. Yes, but not right this second, but I will. So who am I? For anyone who's new, I'll quickly. Yo-yo dieted for like a decade. I'm a registered dietitian, Trust Your Body Project. I used to identify as all these things that you all struggle with. And the only way I found freedom is when I finally let go of control and learned to rewrite the thoughts in my mind. Now, I realize that I'm in a thin body and I hold a lot of privilege. So my ability to, pursue food freedom is going to be easier than someone who's in a bigger body, just because, and we're going to talk about that today, stigma and like societal expectations. That being said, I help clients of all body sizes. So your body is not getting in the way of you being able to rewrite the stories that go on in your mind, okay? It'll make it harder, for sure. Your journey will be more complicated, for sure. But it's not impossible. So in training 1 on Monday, we talked about how your body is beautifully designed to protect you and keep you in equilibrium. A lot of the things that you're experiencing right now, changes in your behaviors or your thoughts, are just coping mechanisms. They're trying to keep you safe, and they were probably developed in response to traumatic experiences, either in childhood or early in your adult life. I want to emphasize that traumatic experiences does not mean, there's a big difference between trauma with a capital T and trauma with a lowercase t. Trauma with a capital T is things like, physical abuse, assault, etc., like the things that we normally think of when we think trauma. But trauma, like everyone has lowercase t trauma, okay? It's periods of disconnection. It's feeling, like your emotional needs are not being met when you're growing up. It's these things that cause disconnection within you, these little things that you're like, well, but my, my relationship with my parents and my family, my upbringing was fine. Like, I don't have any trauma. And it's like, okay, but if you're struggling with some of these things that developed in your childhood, there is a certain degree of trauma. I would be hard pressed to find a single person in this world who hasn't experienced some level of trauma, lowercase lowercase t. Is that, am I saying that right? So just wanted to like emphasize that. The only way to deal with this stuff, the only way to heal these coping mechanisms is removing judgment and getting curious about it, curious about your behaviors, curious about what's causing it. So you can use that info to heal. So what do we know? We can't change a behavior from self-hate, guilt, and shame. We need unconditional permission and self-acceptance for freedom. And this rebellion is a gift, okay? The rebellion that you have against weight loss or against healthy lifestyle changes, whatever, this is actually a gift, because what it's trying to push you to do is pursue food freedom, which is all about being in partnership with your body and fiercely trusting yourself that you'll learn how to give yourself what you need eventually over time, okay? It's this process that like the holistic psychologist, if you follow her on Instagram, talks about in the context of reparenting, right? Learning how to give yourself what you need and have structure and, you know, engage in healthy behaviors, even if you don't always like want to, because it's good for your body, but not having that rebellion and the resistance of unhealed trauma, all right? So why is it so hard to give up dieting? Like, if all of these things are true, it should be pretty obvious that like, oh, food freedom and, you know, this is the thing I want. I want freedom. I want peace. Like, why is it so hard to choose that path? All right. Hold on. Oh, I have to open my door. It's getting toasty. The dieting paradox. Let's talk about it. So I want to warn you that today's topic is a little bleak. All right. It can feel really discouraging. This is why it is so unbelievably important to, one, come to the calls on Friday and Saturday, because those calls are going to be a lot more empowering, a lot more exciting. I'm literally breaking down step by steps, giving you tools that you can start using immediately for your freedom and for your healing. All right. So come to the calls. Like, don't just finish with this call and then be like, I can't deal with this anymore. I'm not watching anymore. Or shut down. Your response to some of this information might be to shut down and to, you know, go into a stress overwhelm, hypervigilance, right? But we're going to end on an empowering note. And then Friday and Saturday are really going to be about like empowering you, giving you the tools, giving you the steps for your freedom. So I'd highly encourage you to keep watching. Now, what is the dieting paradox? But dieting paradox is basically, diet culture tells us everything you want in life, especially good health, right, must start with losing weight. But what's the problem? The research shows that weight loss doesn't work. Seriously. And we're going to talk about that in a second. Wait, why? Hold on. Okay, so here's the truth. I would imagine that most of you have gone on a diet at some point in your life that did, quote, work, right? So you lost weight and it felt really good. And that's the diet that you hold in your mind as like the diet, right? The one that set the bar, like, why can't you ever be as good at dieting as you were that one time? You know, it's probably one of the first that you ever went on. And for whatever reason, you know, the stars aligned and you lost weight, but eventually you gained it back, right? This is the issue. About 1 year into every long-term weight loss study. So for context, weight loss studies typically last 9 months. That's the bulk of our weight loss studies and research, 9 months long, which is convenient because weight regain, according to the research, happens between 1 and 3 years. Okay. So at the 1 year mark, as you can see, these are some of the major weight loss studies over the past, 20 years. And what happens is they lose weight and then it starts to creep back up to the point that most, if not all people, are unsuccessful, quote unquote, at keeping the weight off. And the thing that researchers do is, yes, I just saw a comment that diet culture and fat phobia and ED recovery groups. So ED recovery treatment centers and a lot of approaches are highly fat phobic, perpetuate weight stigma, and it's something that is like truly awful. So I feel you, I see you, and that is why the anti-diet community online exists, to counteract that. Between 1 and 3 years, the weight eventually comes back on. Now, what the researchers do in these studies is they'll be like, okay, as you can see, 2,000 people, 1,640 people successfully lost weight. And like, although 95 to 98% of these people regain the weight back, there's 2% of people who don't. And so we need to be looking at that 2%. That's what they do. And that's bias in research, right? They say, someone's obviously doing it right. So the one person, let's look at them. Let's study them some more. What? Like, what about the 98%? Like, that's, what about those diets that claim weight loss for 1 year or 5 years? I would be highly skeptical about that claim. And I would, here's the thing that happens, right? People who do the 1% that does, or 2% that does lose weight long-term, right? They end up becoming like spokespeople, right? Most of those people become health coaches or weight loss coaches, or they talk about it in the media and all of this stuff. They become what we think of in the context of weight loss, because guess what happens? People like you who lost weight and gained it back, like the rest of the population, are feeling too ashamed and embarrassed and are blaming themselves too much to talk about it. So of course, all we see is that, quote, success stories, of course. But then you look at like The Biggest Loser, right? For however many years that ran, every single person who was on The Biggest Loser gained the weight back. Every single person. And there's extensive research studies on it. Also, The Biggest Loser is a highly fat-phobic and stigmatizing show. A lot of research on that. If you're into research, I definitely recommend looking that up, because it's fascinating, right? How do we just ignore this stuff? How do we look past it? Oh, and I wanted to point out too, like this one down here, the one with the most weight loss, that one is what, or not this one down here with the most weight loss, but this one down here with the most weight loss and the lowest regain. So what a lot of research does is they'll be like, okay, so all these people lost weight at 1 year, but then, 20% of the population that dropped out of the study or didn't lose any weight, we just cut them from the final results. So they're not included in our final data. Oh, so we can just cherry pick data. Oh, got it. Okay, cool. Good to know. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff we're working with. So what happens with your body and your weight? There's something called a set point theory. Now, it is just a theory. It's rooted in what we talked about yesterday. Your body is always maintaining an equilibrium. Now, something that happens with dieting is that long-term, it can push your set point up. Okay, so we all have like a 10 to 15 pound range that our bodies like to exist in. It's a range that, like, if you like eat a lot one weekend and you're feeling extra bloated, and you may be thinking like, oh my gosh, I gained weight, like panicking about that. It's never like that much weight, but our body dysmorphia and our fear of weight gain is just making up stories about how much weight we gain, in the same way that you can, like, be particularly active for a week or two and maybe like be eating more like vegetables or something. I don't know, right? You can have like a certain lifestyle, or maybe you're stressed and you're just kind of like not emotionally eating at that point or whatever, and you can drop a couple pounds easily, right? This is all, but it feels like the biggest win, right? Why is it that every time you start a diet, that first like 5 pounds is the easiest to lose, and then you plateau? There's countless articles online talking about how to hack your plateau and whatever. No, your plateau is a 10 to 15 pound range that your body can fluctuate easily within. Are there multiple weight ranges? So we don't really know that. Yeah, I wasted so much time on those articles as well. Yeah, we don't really know that. It's hard to say. Okay, sorry, got a little, there we go. It's hard to say. And what we do know is that we don't have any method or proven methods to lower your set point. But what we do see is that dieting long-term for about a third of people leads to your set point being increased or hovering a little bit higher the more that you cycle in and out, because your body's trying to protect you, okay? So the question of, is being fat bad for your health? Because that's the big thing, right? Like we see that diets don't work. We see that the research has been manipulated to, show us one thing when in reality something entirely different has happened. And we understand set point. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say about set point before I forget is I went to this talk from this person who studies like metabolic health, who is a health at every size informed physician and researcher. And she was talking about how there's something that happens when you lose 15 pounds of fat specifically, like not muscle, not anything else, but fat specifically, that triggers a series of metabolic reactions to compensate for the fact that you lost weight and try to regain the weight quickly. Okay. So that is part of what contributes to the set point theory, is that when you hit a certain amount of weight lost, your body goes into like overdrive mode to try to make up for it and compensate for it and protect you, because it thinks you're dying, right? Like it literally thinks you're restricting and about to die. So it does all these things to try to keep you alive. Yeah, the body's so cool. Like the body's awesome that it's trying to keep you alive. And I want you to remember that no matter what. So when this weight loss happens for reasons related to disease, it also increases your set point. No. Like if you gain weight because you have a disease or because you start new medication, it doesn't mean that your set point's definitely going to change. The fact is, I can't tell you what's going to happen to your body. I can't tell you what's going to happen if you pursue food freedom. I can't tell you what's going to happen if you go on a certain medication or, whatever. It's a combination of your genetics, so if you look around at your family and a lot of your family are in bigger bodies, right? A lot of your family members are in bigger bodies, then that's a little cue in your genetics. But what people assume, we look at families who are all fat and we say, oh, like it must be all of their eating and all of their habits. No, it's genetics. Like, why do we look at a tall family? We don't say like, oh, they must have like drank a lot of milk, remember that thing that it was like, if you drink milk, you'll grow tall. We don't do that because that's ridiculous. Weight is the same idea. Like it's not that wild to think that weight is regulated in a similar mechanism to the rest of our body. It can't be the only thing that doesn't operate like the rest of our body, right? So the body is so perfectly designed. It's really awesome that way. So what about health? All right. All we hear is like, being in a bigger body, high BMIs are bad for your health. Well, yo-yo dieting and weight cycling are bad for your health. Frequent periods of restriction, discrimination and marginalization, so stigma, chronic stress, bad for your health. Unhealed trauma, bad for your health. All or nothing approaches to health. Now, I tell you this gently because it's not your fault. This is what you were taught. My mom used to use the weight is genetic thing and justify putting me on a diet at a young age because my dad's side is bigger and she wanted to help me avoid that. Yikes. That, I'm really sorry that that happened to you because that's also so misinformed. If it was genetic, then why, that's like weight is genetic, but it's still behavioral. Like that's what that is. That's a confusion of the actual premise of weight being genetic. Part of me feels betrayed by my body that I can't lose the weight. That's really common. My mom blames her ancestors because they survived hunger in winter and were farmers, so that must be why we're big. That might be part of it, right? Bodies physiologically help protect us from our environments, from experiences of famine. Famine and restriction are coded into the body as trauma, okay? In the same way that oppression and, physical violence are coded into the body as trauma. So we do carry that stuff in our genetics. We do carry that stuff, and the body is designed to protect you. I understand feeling like your body is betraying you, that you can't lose weight. But here's the thing. If we lived in a culture where weight loss was not idolized, okay, where weight was just normal, like height, okay, you wouldn't feel that way. You would be so grateful that your body protects you. It's the stigma, it's the culture. It's not, also, can you all, asterisks the O word because it's stigmatizing. But yeah, as a med student, they're definitely still preaching it. I learned it in school, right? I had to learn all of this health at every size stuff on my own time because, you know. So let's talk about weight stigma, right? Weight stigma is the experience of oppression and stigma. And for those of you who are on Facebook, if you want to pull up the slides and go to the weight stigma, or it's also on your notes. This is called the trans-theoretical model of weight stigma. So this is how we can explain the health risks that are associated with being fat. All right, so weight stigma becomes internalized weight stigma. We internalize oppression, we internalize the messages about our body, we internalize the discrimination and all of this, okay? And then that leads to body shame and appearance monitoring, which leads to decreased physical health through dieting, weight cycling. Shame in general is just as bad for your health. Stress, high stress from stigma and shame, and appearance monitoring, bad for your health. And poor psychological well-being also is worse for your health. Okay, so all of these things work together to create this, or to help explain the disparity between people of normal BMIs and people of higher BMIs in terms of disease risk. Okay, so I have a long highlight on my Instagram going into this in more detail, but yeah, this is how we explain some of the disease risk issues, because actually when you look at the data, oftentimes there isn't a correlation between weight and when you look at the data and you actually factor in these things, right? So you control for these different factors, weight cycling and yo-yo dieting, specifically a history of dieting. What we see is that there's actually no correlation between, or very small correlation between weight and disease risk. But most of the studies that are looking at the correlation between weight and disease risk are not factoring in a history of weight cycling and yo-yo dieting, which we have so much evidence to show us that weight cycling is harmful for the body, okay? And restriction is harmful for the body. I know this is a lot. I'm kind of like explaining this in a sciencey way, or I'm trying to like meet you in the middle. So I'm happy to answer questions in the Facebook group between now and Friday as well, if you want me to explain it again. So here's some of the side effects of restriction, because let's talk about dieting actually physiologically, because this is what matters, right? What happens when you diet? Anxiety, depression, fatigue, brain fog, irritability, mood swings, higher stress, higher cortisol levels. Yeah, BMI is bogus. Slowed metabolic rate, loss of hunger and fullness cues. So for those of you who are like, I can't just stop eating when I'm full, I don't know when I'm hungry. That's why a history of dieting causes your hunger and fullness cues to go away. Because if you think about it, imagine that you are living in a famine, right? You're living in a time with a famine. How helpful is it for our bodies to feel hunger if we physically cannot access food? Not very helpful, right? Probably really annoying. So what our bodies do when it thinks that we're in a famine is that not only does it mute our hunger and fullness hormones, the hormones that let our brains know and our bodies know, like, hey, it's time to eat, but it also redirects your blood flow away from the digestive tract towards your limbs. All right. So you've got like all the blood flow going to your limbs to help you run away if you need to, and the digestive tract shuts down. That's why reefing or going into food freedom, you can experience GI symptoms. You can experience like a lot of bloating and very abnormal hunger and fullness cues for a while. And so on Friday, we're going to talk about like how to reconnect with hunger and fullness signals, what to expect from this process, and like why it's so important to go through this process. All right. The other thing that we see, so someone was like, what about sugar addiction? Talk about it. Okay. So the other thing that we see with food restriction is intense preoccupation with food, high sugar, high fat foods. For those of you who haven't read the Fuck It Diet, or for those of you who haven't listened to my podcast episodes, there was the Minnesota starvation experiment that happened in like the 50s, right? Basically there were a bunch of, or the 40s maybe, there was a bunch of people at war. And so they took people who were conscious objectors from the military and put them in a study. It was all men. It was all like soldier looking men, AKA like naturally lean, muscly men who just didn't want to serve. All right. So they went to this experiment. And what they did was they restricted their calories to, guess how many? Like 1,800 calories, which is bonkers thinking about how studies bonkers, yeah, which is ridiculous when you think about the kind of diets that you've probably been on. 1,800 calories. Like, are you kidding? I've had clients be like, honestly, when I read about the Minnesota starvation study, I was like, seriously, these guys like were struggling at 1,800, like try being a woman, you know? Oh yeah, the starvation heights is real dark. We're not gonna go into that today. So what happened? They became obsessed with food. Some of the men snuck away to binge milkshakes, and they were, you know, left out of the study. Some of the men became so obsessed with food during that time that they became chefs and would sit there and like go through cookbooks because they couldn't eat during this time. They were starved, or they were put on these low calorie diets for about 6 months, and they literally like lost it. All experienced all of these symptoms that are before you. In terms of sugar addiction, right? The only research that we have around sugar addiction is so there's rat studies. It's when rats are restricted, they're starved before, and then they're given sugar. Of course, they're choosing the sugar. Like starvation and restriction cause this rebound effect. Yeah, this explains why I felt like I was losing it during my restriction days. Yeah, I was so emotional when I was dieting. I was so irritable. I had such intense mood swings. I felt like I couldn't focus. I was anxious. I had like the worst mood all the time. These things are often tied to dieting if you're a dieter, okay? Hype is all related to deprivation. Exactly. Yeah. Brain fog. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, I used to freak out if my mom like brought ice cream. God forbid she brought ice cream into the house. I would like yell at her like, I feel so bad for my mom, you know? We're good now. So remember, the body is beautifully designed to identify threats and protect you from danger. Oh, another thing about the Minnesota starvation study is when you think about it, no wonder so many people who are like chronic dieters or very invested in diet culture become health coaches. That's why I became a registered dietitian, because I was hungry. I chose my entire career path because I was hungry. I was going to be a psych major, which is ironic because most of the work that I do now is psychology, right? I chose to switch my major to become a registered dietitian because I was freaking hungry. That's absurd, okay? So yeah, no wonder so many health coaches are giving out disordered advice. A lot of them became health coaches because they like figured out a healthy lifestyle. No, they're hungry, you know, and they like to make money on the control. Same, you know. I chose my entire career path because I was hungry. She got on a t-shirt. Yeah. Okay, so when eating is out of balance, we overeat, binge eat, emotionally eat, and we swing back and forth. All right. What happens when you aren't dieting? What does normal eating look like? Well, it looks a lot like this. So Fiona Wheeler is one of the incredible people that you should follow. She has an entire podcast on weight research. She explains it so well. She's so freaking smart. She's just awesome. All right. She looks at this study. So this study shows us that over the course of a year, our eating patterns naturally, uninfluenced by dieting, hover around a middle point. Yes, we have days that we're more hungry. Yes, we have days that we're less hungry. Totally. But look at this line. So when people are like, oh my gosh, food freedom, what if I eat forever? What if I eat everything forever? Well, first of all, you're going to eat forever because your body needs food. But you're not going to binge forever, because no, like bodies literally don't do that. They don't want to do that. But they have to feel like they're safe first, which is the whole food freedom process. Okay. Now, another question that people had was that, oh no, what was it? Oh, something in the notes that I put on Monday that I was like, anything done with the intention of weight loss can still create that panic of restriction and that anxiety. So yeah, restriction's so hard in your menstrual cycle. Yes, it does like actively change your hormonal response, the amount of your hormones that you're producing, which is a problem. Okay. Restrictions really, really bad for people with thyroid conditions. Restrictions really, really bad for people with low estrogen or low testosterone. Okay. Fiona Wheeler, if someone just asked, please say her name again. I think that's who you're asking about. Okay, so like I said before, the body codes restriction as famine, as a threat to our survival. Then it associates weight loss thoughts, expecting weight loss, with restriction. So for a lot of people early on in their food freedom journey, if you still like secretly have, oh, you know, I want to lose weight, or I hope this leads to weight loss over time, whether or not it does, it may cause you to get stuck in the binge eating and the chaotic eating for longer, because your body's still freaking out that it's going to get restricted. Okay. That's why it's so, so, so important to, when approaching food freedom, really take the time to unpack the desire for weight loss. Okay. So why is it so hard to stop wanting weight loss, right? Like why is this so hard? Why is, because the research is all there, like everything we know about it is all there. So why is it so hard? Why can't it just be like, yeah, okay, I'm done dieting. Like you convinced me. Okay. The dream, because everyone around me values it. Yeah, it's easier to focus on weight loss than more overwhelming emotions from other issues in my life. There's a lot of money to make off selling diets. That's for dang sure. Because this embedded in your subconscious and I need to control it. Yeah. Years of abuse and ridicule during weight, for real. I think I'll get approval. I think it will lead to health. I worry that I'm really at a higher risk of heart disease and things if I'm too fat. External pressure, judgment, weight stigma. Because it's hard to accept that my body has changed over time, that is okay. Yeah, which is ironic, right? Because for some reason with diet culture, we all gotten into this mindset that like your body's never going to change. Like that's totally not a thing. Okay. Assimilation and fear of discrimination and stigma is the biggest thing. That last bullet point is the reason why I will never, ever, ever judge someone or blame someone for choosing to continue to try to lose weight, even when they know all of this stuff, right? If some of you are like, you know what, I don't care. I'm gonna still keep trying to diet. I don't care. I don't care about the mental part. I don't care. You know, I need to keep trying to diet. Okay. Like, who am I to tell you that you shouldn't, you know, do these things to try to assimilate to a culture and like avoid stigma and oppression? I can't tell you that. What I can tell you is the actual evidence. What I can do is support you and empower you. And what I can do is show you all the benefits of food freedom and giving up dieting. Can I identify and stop the chaotic eating before I do it without activating the restriction response? Yes, but I don't think right away. I have steps for it. Okay. We're gonna talk about that on Friday. Okay. So the question I want to ask you all is, what would have to be true for you to give up dieting? What would have to be true for you to believe that you can accept yourself? Let me know. What would have to be true? I can be loved and accepted. Okay, so love, acceptance, worthy, health, confidence, admiration, Mm. Or energy. Okay. So I'm going to kind of leave it internal peace. All right. Peace. All right. Now, let's talk about what's in your control and what's out of your control. Because when you look at these things, right? Someone said, I want people to not judge me. Totally. And whether or not people judge you isn't really in your control, even if you do lose weight. People are going to find a way to judge you no matter what. That is something that happens to every human. Every single human is judged. There will always be people who are activated or triggered or whatever just by you existing. Doesn't matter what you're doing, but other people's judgment says more about them than it does about you. Okay. So, yeah, being judged is the reason why I am so confident in my business, because guess what? People pleasing doesn't work. And you don't even end up attracting the right people, the right clients. And so all I can do is be fiercely myself. And I take it as a compliment when people judge me or criticize me on social media, or judge me about my business, criticize my business. It's a compliment. I'm like, thank you. Thank you so much for being triggered by me. Yes. Because I didn't do anything, right? It says more about their insecurities than it does about you. Always. So if someone judges me, I usually respond with like, I'm really sorry for whatever is going on that makes you feel that way. And then they end up usually like freaking out to me because they're going through something real hard, you know? And then all of a sudden I have someone sending me 5 paragraphs about whatever happened in their family. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, book a call or something like. So, but yeah, judgment, seriously, like rejection is such a gift. We're going to talk about this more on Saturday. I need to move on. Okay. You can have a mindset like mine. It's simple, right? But you have to be open to believing it. All right. So what you cannot control, right? For all of us control enthusiasts out here, what you cannot control, your set point, as far as we know, the fact that you're rebelling against dieting, because if you could control it, like you would have, right? You've done a lot to try to control it. Here we are. The past, you cannot control the past, and you cannot control the future either. Right? You can only control the current moment. Can't control your parents, can't control the stigma, can't control other people ever. Ever, ever, ever. You cannot control whether someone is attracted to you. You could have the most culturally ideal body in the world, want one person to find you attractive, and they might not. And you can't do anything about it. You can't control what you ate in the past, right? And I'd like to think you can't really like control what you eat, but what you can do is set yourself up to take power and dominion and autonomous control, quote unquote, over what you eat or your health behaviors. Yeah, someone said that health behaviors are usually rooted in fear and stigma. Well, that I 100% understand that. And we can also reframe that, right? Health behaviors being within your control means that if you want to eat more vegetables, eat more vegetables. If you want to move your body, move your body. But if every time you try to do those things, you have resistance and rebellion, then you got to work on that first. I have a core belief that if I was more beautiful, life would be easier. The idea of beauty at my size feels so foreign. First of all, there's so many people to follow who are absolutely stunning in all body sizes. And life would be easier if you were more beautiful, for sure, quote unquote, right, in society. But you know what else happens? People only like you for your beauty. People try to, you know, take advantage of you. People like there's negatives to that as well. So yeah, pretty people seem to have a bubble. They have things handed to them, right? It's time to develop. It's got to take time to develop this mindset. Yes, it does. It does. And that's why I'm introducing it, because I'm showing you it's possible. This takes a long time, but it's possible. And if you can have one mindset win, then that shows you, like, if you can have one mindset win, like one change in the way you see something by the end of Saturday, that shows you that's possible. That's all I want. Literally, if this whole week, the only thing that you get out of it is you change your mindset on one thing, that shows you what's possible, what you are capable of doing and creating in your mind, okay? Because you can control your mind. This is the best part of this whole thing. And when I was, you know, obsessively dieting, I thought that I was a victim to my own thoughts. I thought that my thoughts were true 100% of the time, and I was just a victim to them, and I couldn't change them. And if I was having an anxious thought day, or if I was spiraling, then that was just it. Then it was over, and like everything in my life was bad, and all of this stuff. Okay. When in reality, you can change your mind. Does it take a lot of practice? Heck yeah. All right. You can control the current moment. We're always making decisions, right? You can control your mind to help change how you feel about certain things, right? You can have freedom. This is within your control. Freedom is in your mind. What about neurodivergent people? ADHD, OCD, both of these things are not, I mean, you know, again, might have some road bumps. Yeah, road bumps along the way, but yeah. Being on the autism spectrum as well. Like I've worked with clients who have all of those things, right? Totally within your control. How do we get over the mental judgment that exists, like judging people in our minds that are thin or fat? Like it's one thing to judge ourselves, but another thing to judge someone we don't know and create stories in our minds. Okay, so, all right, so we're going to talk about this more on Saturday. That's why coming to the call on Saturday is going to be really important. I really hope you all are able to tune into it. But basically, questioning your fat phobia, your internalized fat phobia, is exactly the same process as questioning like your internalized racism. It's noon on Saturday. Obviously the leap, can I talk? No. It's noon on Saturday Pacific time. I sent it out in emails. And yeah, it's going to be a really good call. We're going to talk a lot about mindset. But the process of questioning your internalized fat phobia and healing it is very similar to the process of, you know, questioning your internalized racism and healing that, okay? Because what you first have to do is make it conscious. And then you can start to question it. 3 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday. Everyone has internalized fat phobia in the same way that everyone is racist. Yeah, the call on Saturday will be recorded. There's implicit biases tests. We all have implicit biases. That's just like part of being human. In group and out grouping is like it's part of our survival. So that happens. It's super uncomfortable to recognize, and recognizing it and owning up to it and being aware of it is the first step of changing it. Okay. So quickly finishing this, you can control your boundaries. You can control your life choices. Those of you who hide, who don't go after things, who don't go on dates even though you want to be dating, don't put yourself out there to meet new people because of your body, you can control all that stuff. You can control actually participating in your life. You are the only one who can decide to heal. You're the only one who can decide. I can give you all the information, the support, and the love and the tools. You're the only one who can decide how to feel, or how to heal, or when. I think that mental health challenges can distort your thoughts and feelings, and you learn what you can trust and what you can't. You can't necessarily control your thoughts, but you can train yourself to transform your attitudes. You can train yourself to respond more to irrational thoughts with more rational thoughts. Exactly. That's what I mean by control your mind, is not believe it. So when the thoughts come in, you question them, you introduce new thoughts. Yeah. Again, we're going to talk about this a lot on Saturday. All right. Brooke. Yeah, you have. Okay. So, yeah, Brooke is a great example. She just finished my group program, and she's been in my membership site for a while, and she's made so much progress and done so much healing and so much grieving. Grieving is so part of this process. All right. So let's talk about the vision really quickly. I know we're at the end, but let's just talk about the vision really quickly. We are going to talk about this more on Friday and Saturday. Feel better in your clothes. This one's tricky, right? Because on one hand, we need more clothes to be made in a variety of sizes. On the other hand, you're probably holding on to clothes that don't fit you and haven't fit you in a while. And so, of course, you're throwing those clothes. There are more and more companies making size inclusive clothing. It's a great time to be healing your relationship with the body. It's the best time in history to be healing your relationship with your body, because there are infinitely more accessible clothing lines than there ever were. They're so expensive. I know, and they're getting cheaper. It's the best time. It does. I know. There are barriers for sure. Buying clothes that actually fit was one of my best things I've ever done in my journey. Exactly. Because you know what happens when you wear pants that don't fit is you're thinking about it 24/7. Def grieving right now. Yeah. Grieving has to happen. All right. Joints. There's things you can do for your joints. Also, it doesn't matter what weight you are. You're probably going to get joint pain in your life, because hello, we all have messed up feet. All of us have messed up, like 95 or something, 96% of the population has this like slight variation in your heel bone. This doesn't matter. Basically, we have messed up feet. We walk messed up. We walk wrong. Okay. The way that we walk creates torques. And I took a anatomy of human gait, or the whatever, in college, and it was like the most fascinating thing ever, because I realized that we all have joint pain because we all step down on our feet incorrectly. Like, that's it. So joint pain, there's things you can do. I know that weight exacerbates it, but you can go to doctors and they'll be like, well, it's all your weight. That's bullshit. That's bias. That's stigma. All right. There's a lot of things you can do for your joints. Movement, same thing. You can independently work on movement. You can independently work on climbing stairs. Where is it? I forget where it is. But you can independently work on your endurance and your strength. Romantic confidence. I got to tell you, if you're not romantically confident, it's probably not just about your body, okay? Your body's a really easy thing to blame, because we think, oh, we can fix it and then we'll be romantically confident. Nope. Romantic confidence is a lot deeper than just your body, all right? It's going to show up in a lot of different ways. Beliefs about what you're worth, right? Confidence and creativity, these things come from getting out of fight or flight. Acceptance. Acceptance does not mean you love yourself. Acceptance means it is what it is. Okay, I want to practice acceptance right now. Neutrality, exactly. So, thinking about all the things about your body that you don't like, all the things that you wish you could change, kind of makes your heart race, right? It makes you panic, makes you kind of freak out about whatever's going on, and start to think in the future and like, oh my God, people are not going to like me and people are going to judge me and all this stuff. Okay. So it makes you literally panic. Are you any different in this moment? Can you change anything about this moment? Can you change your body in this moment? No. Now, are you okay right now in this moment? Are you safe? Yes. Okay. Is thinking about future weight gain or what you're going to eat later or whatever, does that change your safety and your okayness in this very moment? No. Yeah. Okay. So this is what I mean by you have control over your mind. The thing that causes us to stay in fight or flight is constantly thinking about the future, constantly trying to control the future, constantly thinking about, oh my gosh, what if this, what if that, what if whatever. I need to change my body. I need to change my eating. I need to change my working out. I need to whatever. Thinking that way doesn't change the present moment. Just makes you anxious. You're allowed to be worried. You're allowed to be sad. You're allowed to be grieving. You're allowed to be feeling a loss or confused or unsure about what the future holds. And obsessing about it, trying to control it, trying to change it, trying to make plans for all these things that you're going to do. Those are just band-aids. Those are coping strategies, right? But you have safety inside of you right now. And the reason I know that is because we only tend to seek out healing by signing up for a free webinar series, for example, when we are safe enough to handle it. So if you're feeling deeply uncomfortable, if all of this old stuff is coming up for you, that's because you have the safety in the moment right now to allow it to come up. That's acceptance. Acceptance is only has to happen in the present moment. Doesn't have to happen tomorrow, doesn't have to happen yesterday, it doesn't have to, it's right now. Accepting the present moment right now. How do you feel? How does that feel? Makes sense. I'm so ready for change. So much stuff has been coming up and I was scared. I was scared it meant I wasn't ready, but I am. Yes, yes. We're never given anything we're not ready for. Definitely true. Yeah. I still think I'm not safe, but I guess when I think about it, I am. Yeah, of course. Of course, there's part of you that still feels unsafe. And this whole food freedom process is about learning to create your own safety in the present moment. Learning to accept the present moment. I feel like I do all these educational things to avoid actually taking action and making change. All right, so take notes on that. What are you going to do different this time? How are you going to take action instead of just sitting and like, well, let me get all the education, I do that too. I want to run and hide. Yeah. I'm not in an abusive home anymore and I have people who love me. Exactly. What about talking to other health professionals that make me feel unsafe? I don't want to diet because they are keen on keto. Yikes. I'm not resisting. I've tried it before. I mean, keto is terrible. I find some health professionals see it as a lack of willpower, or that I'm lying to them about what I'm eating. Yeah. There are health at every size health professionals, doctors that you can find online. There's more doctors that are going virtual that accept a lot of different insurance who are health at every size. Again, the landscape is getting better. And we got to take everything doctors say with a grain of salt. That's just what it is. One of the mindset tricks that I taught a client was she doesn't trust doctors at all because of the weight stigma that she's experienced. And so one of the things that we worked on is, okay, I don't trust doctors until they prove me otherwise. And guess what? One of the doctors she went to see, health at every size aligned, and has been like such a good advocate, such a healing experience, right? But sometimes we gotta, I know that's not accessible to everyone. So I don't trust doctors until. My therapist suggests I try intermittent fasting. I swear to effing, if therapists keep recommending diets to people, I'm gonna freak out. I mean, you got to set your boundaries. We can talk about that a little more on Friday or Saturday. I mean, You do not have to explain yourself. Yeah, amen. You might also like, I imagine like most of the people that I work with, when a therapist does that, it's really hard to trust them going forward. So it's okay if that therapist isn't going to work out right now, you know? We think we are unsafe from the world, but I know now I was unsafe from what I think about myself and believing that diet culture, what the diet culture puts out along with trauma. Yeah. Okay. So your motivation for food freedom can start with wanting to have your body at your set point. I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting your body at your set point. How frustrating is it to have your body constantly fluctuating? So frustrating. So that can be a motivation, but don't hold expectations of the outcome of a certain weight. All right. You can't control where your body ends up, but you can want stability and consistency in your body. Correct me if I'm wrong, mental health, healing trauma, practicing, oh yeah, kind of takes priority and the eating habits follow. Yes. So that's why everything I'm explaining starts in the mind. This is what I like. Yes, I'm a dietitian and I barely talk about food. In fact, when I do like group programs or I have my on my membership, I have other people come in and talk about food because like I like to do the trauma work, I like to do the emotional work, the thought work, use therapeutic techniques that I wish I had gone to school for, but I didn't. Now I'm learning on my own. Attachment. Yeah, attachment. Okay. And this is something we're definitely going to go into detail. I'm glad you don't talk about food. I'm tired of hearing about food. Same. But we do talk about it, you know, towards the end. Like, you know, when I run a group program, at the end of the group program, it's like, all right, well, how do you actually have like health promoting behaviors? What does that actually look like? Up until then, mentality, internalized fat phobia, like grieving, permission, acceptance, love, healing, like questioning your beliefs, all the fun, juicy stuff that's happening in your mind. I know it's not fun. I know it's deeply uncomfortable, but it's fun for me. So I'm like, yay, I love the progress. It's so cool. All right. I feel like I still have an intense preoccupation with high sugar, high fat foods, even though I've been trying to give myself permission. When does the preoccupation start to diminish? So that's a little bit challenging for me to answer because there's a bunch of different things that can influence that, right? It can be actually like you're not eating enough, you're not eating regularly enough. It can be your mindset, it can be restriction, it can be, you know, a number of different things. So for women, it can be your estrogen levels as well. If you have low estrogen, that can cause like intense sugar cravings that don't go away from food freedom. I love how you get excited about the process. Yeah, well, you know why I get excited about the process? Because literally every single person that I've ever worked with says something like, well, I don't know if this is going to work for me, Whitney. Like, I'm going to be the one person who it doesn't work for. And I always giggle and I'm like, okay, if you're going to let that stop you, then see you later. And then they're like, really? You think it's going to work? And I'm like, and guess what? It does. All right. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. There's things that have to come first, right? It doesn't even happen in the, like, sometimes I work with people for 6 months and there's a lot more work that they need to do, but you can get the foundation of it. We're going to talk more about that on Friday because I'm going to show you the whole process and what to expect. So Friday and Saturday's calls are really, really important. Okay. Estrogen issues. Yeah, getting your hormones balanced is freaking beautiful. Okay. Finally, yeah. All right. Trust the process. So excited to learn more. Yeah. Yay. Preventing diabetes. Let's quickly talk about that one before we go because it's 1 minute. This is not, getting diabetes is not a punishment for how you eat. It doesn't, you don't just eat sugar for a year, right? Every day for a year and get diabetes. It's not how diabetes works physiologically. The fact that we fearmonger so much about diabetes and like and sugar is so harmful. It's so ableist. Like, how messed up is that for people with diabetes to hear all these, right? Like, talk about stigma. People with diabetes and everyone around's running around like, you're gonna get diabetes, and it's like, wow, like it's a punishment. You're going to hell for being fat and you're going to get diabetes. What? Not science. Like, this isn't science. It's true. You can eat, quote, perfectly all the things that you're supposed to eat, quote unquote, to prevent diabetes and still get diabetes. And you can eat ice cream every single day for the rest of your life and never get diabetes. You can be fat and not get diabetes. You can be skinny and get diabetes, right? These diseases are not only affecting people in bigger bodies. It's affecting people of all body sizes. But guess what is one of the number one contributors for poor health? Chronic stress. I want to eat ice cream every day for the rest of my life, please. Yeah, same. Not ice cream, French fries. Chronic stress is the best. Working on your stress, working on your mindset, working on your beliefs, working on your freedom is the best thing that you can do for your health. This is why this process is so important. This is why I get so excited about it. I worked with a client who literally had, like, you know, her blood panel was not great when we first started, right? She was hypertensive, you know, pre-diabetic. Walking up and downstairs was very difficult for her. She was chronically stressed, emotionally eating all the time. We worked on grieving. We worked on the mentality. We worked on her emotions. We worked on her trauma and her stress. And guess what? After 6 months, after 4 months, her blood panel she was in perfect health. She started exercising more. She got her endurance up. Like, literally, it can happen like that. Can I still do food freedom if I have diabetes? Yes. Yes, you can. If you have to have a restriction for a disease, let's say you have to eat a certain way for like PCOS or diabetes or hormone conditions or thyroid, you know, whatever, right? You have to eat a certain way. Gut health, that's a big one, right? Maybe you're sensitive to certain things or whatever. Food freedom is a mindset, okay? There's a difference between restricting your body because you hate it and choosing not to eat certain foods because of the way that they affect you or the way that they impact your disease, right? Different energies. Food freedom is a mindset, it's a mentality, it's a way of living, it's a way of life. Anyone can have food freedom because it's freedom of the expectations and the, you know, expectation of your weight and the self-blame and the need for control. Yeah. On Friday, we're going to talk more about food freedom and intuitive eating, the difference between the two. On the notes, I put a bunch of resources because we got to wrap up. This is officially too long. Resources, research, books that I recommend. Be careful with the research, please. It's highly stigmatizing if you don't know how to read research or you're very vulnerable right now to self-blame or whatever. Please don't read medical research. It's real painful to read. It makes me physically angry, and I don't get angry about a lot, right? Like the Adele thing didn't even faze me today because I was like, oh yeah, classic. And then I saw all the amazing fat activists I follow on Twitter just being like, this is bullshit. Like, you're fine. Get off social media for the day. You'll be good. They'll stop talking about it. Like, I love the fat activists on Twitter. If you don't have a Twitter, that's the reason to get one. Yeah, Unpacking Weight Science by Fiona Wheeler is incredible. I want to be like you. No, you want to embody your own freedom and your own authentic truth, which is what you think being like me, like, but you won't actually be like me. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to be like you. You want to be like you, but free. Notes. I will post, you're going to get it in the replay, the link to the Google Doc notes. I thought I sent those out, but yeah, anyway. All right, we got to go because I think people are going to be annoyed with me watching this replay. Love you all. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for being open to all of this. See you on Friday. Let's spend a Friday night together. Let's hang out, talk about the steps for food freedom. We're going to talk about how to actually go about it, the biggest mistakes that people make on this journey and how to avoid them, because I don't want you falling down these mistakes. And then Saturday, mindset, loving, excitement, enthusiasm, all the jam. So you all rock. You all deserve freedom and love and acceptance and peace. And cheers to that. Okay. Bye.